Hey everybody, Derek here to bring another video for Z Nation. And this video is going to be doing my review for their most recent episode, which was Batch 47. I thought it was amazing. It was another very good episode. Z Nation has really stepped it up in season 2, and I have to say, I am absolutely impressed with everything that they have done, and I'm really looking forward to next week. So I'm going to tell you guys what happened and give you my thoughts. Just in case you guys are not caught up with Z Nation Season 2, this video will contain spoilers. Okay, so in the episode, the main point of the episode was the greenhouse that contained something called Batch 47. There was a man named Odegaard who was a scientist in some way, shape, or form. How good he was or what his credentials were, I'm not sure. But basically, uh, his group came upon the Minneapolis, Minnesota lab where they were coming up with herbal cures for the zombie virus. So there used to be individuals there that were working on it, but they got overrun because they let the plants inside grow out of control and they ended up retaining zombie like qualities, which again they attacked everybody and killed all the scientists that were there, and Odegaard and his people took over. So basically what they do is actually multiple things. One is they do produce Z-weed. That is their main export, and that is what they do there, which I'll explain later on in the episode. But they also, want to find a cure. They know that it's very profitable for them to be able to, find a cure for this thing and have everybody survive. So now the cure is inside the greenhouse, which is like very far back. It's batch 47. So in order to get there, you have to go through all these, which they called phytozombies, which are half plant, half zombie. And of course, they send in these workers that they have known as harvesters to go in, get the seeds and the pods, and come back so that way Odegaard can do his research. Well, of course, every time people go in there, they ended up getting killed and turned into, phytozombies themselves, because the plants themselves had zombie qualities and they would basically reach out and attack people, as well as the human part that they had. And of course, if you were attacked, you were turned into them, so you became part of the problem. And it's not easy to kill a phytozombie. It's literally, bullets don't work because it's a plant, and plants, the way that their life works is different than humans. Humans, you hit certain vital organs and you're screwed. Whereas a plant, you can fire a bullet into a tree and it's not necessarily going to kill it. It might kill part of the plant, but it's not going to kill necessarily the whole entire, tree or vine or whatever it is. So the only way to really kill it is to pretty much, take some kind of a garden tool and just whack away at it. So they have a lot of problems getting the cure. But when Murphy arrives, he makes a proposition to Odegaard, hey, let's go in there and get the cure. So Odegaard says, sure, let's do it. And Murphy does go inside, and he's able to, maneuver through safely because unlike the blasters, who, their brains have melted and they can't communicate anymore, uh, he can communicate with the plant zombies. So he's able to, for the most part, keep them tame so that they can get to the batch 47, which is really a big tree with a human, zombie mixed in with it. So it's a big, huge phytozombie with, lots of vines and everything. And of course, when you pick the pods and the seeds from it, it feels that, and it doesn't like that, of course. And it does attack them, but they're able to get out safely. So they do get batch 47 in this episode. They go back to the lab, and Odegaard has in these, vials and stands and test tubes and everything, he has zombie heads. And he tests the cure on 3 of them. One of them, he put too much in there and it pretty much blew his head up. I mean, it wasn't the right dosage. The other one just died. But when he got the right dosage, something very amazing happened. The zombie spoke. It actually spoke. But it only said brains. So really, the success of the test and what Batch 47 does, I mean, it may have good things about it, but it may have, negative things about it because, yeah, a zombie that can talk, well, that's not too terrible, but does it really reverse the zombie effects? It didn't seem to. I mean, and I don't think that they're ever going to be able to, inject that into a zombie that's been, rotting for the last 3 years, and it just turns right back into a human. Go, hey everybody, what's up? What's happened? I don't think that's going to happen, regardless of whether they find a cure. But it appeared that all it really did was make the zombie, tame and be able to talk, which, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing if you're able to get it to stop, attacking people. But I think it still wanted to attack people. It just couldn't because it said brains, which what do zombies want? They want to eat brains of humans. So really, it was a nice little, development, but I don't think it really demonstrated that it was a cure, and there's more to come later on in this episode. But other things that were going on, pretty big developments. One was, Warren and the group do arrive, and, they want to get back in touch with Murphy and figure out if there really is a cure, figure out what's going on. They join up with the Harvesters, and they meet this woman who is taking care of this young girl who she's basically adopted because her parents are dead. And she becomes a Harvester because she wants to get the cure for this young girl who she considers and calls her daughter. And while they're waiting, Addie finds this construction equipment, and it has a radio inside, and she tries to see if she can get a hold of Citizen Z, which she does. And informs Citizen Z of the mission, that Murphy's, screwing around, isn't really interested in it. And she tells him about the Minneapolis lab, but Citizen Z says that their priority is that they need to get to California. They can't be wasting their time with this. So he tells them they need to get to California, and he gives her the coordinates, which she then writes on the window of the construction equipment that she's in. But she doesn't necessarily notice that somebody else is watching her talk to Citizen Z, and that is Dr. Kurian. Dr. Kurian has made his way to Minneapolis. He does look a little terrible, I'm not going to lie. That side of his face that was burnt, his ear is pretty much gone. He's got burns all over his forehead, his cheek. I mean, he's not looking too good. But he does actually get to, see Addie write those down. And Murphy ends up using the group to go inside to get the rest of the samples, so that way they can do more tests on it, and they're able to do it. But while they're in there, it's very interesting because Murphy feels pain. Excuse me. Murphy feels pain from the zombies that are inside, like when they're getting attacked or something. It was very, very interesting because while he was going through, he could feel like various different pains when something would happen to the zombies. And I mean, when they killed the one zombie at the end of the episode, I mean, he's just writhing and screaming in pain on the ground. And I thought about that, and I think that what that was just the fact that because Murphy can get inside the zombies, heads and communicate with them and things like that, part of me wonders if he's able to then feel everything that they feel. Like once he's established that connection, anything that happens to that person, he's going to be able to feel it. So he can not only hear them think, it's in a sense his brain or the waves, whatever's going on there, goes to every other part of that person, that zombie, that he can communicate with. And I think that if you shoot that zombie, he's gonna feel it, and that makes sense to me. So that'll be very interesting coming up to see if that development does more to him, or if there's something more that comes as a result of it. But I thought that was pretty interesting. That was a very interesting development on the show. And of course, he runs out of the greenhouse once he starts feeling all that pain, and he runs into Dr. Kurian, and he throws him up against the wall, and goes, "Why shouldn't I kill you? What are you doing here? You tried to manipulate me and all that stuff back at the lab. What reason do I have to keep you alive?" And Kurian says, "Well, there's two reasons. And he basically says, well, because you know if I live, then your kind will flourish and inherit the earth." And he basically, tells Murphy that he is going to be, the person that outlives humans and zombies, that his kind is the way of the future. So that kind of maybe gives a little bit of a perspective on what Dr. Kurian was doing. And I think that it makes sense in the overall scheme of things, because what we find out is that Dr. Kurian was actually working for the individuals that Escorpion works for. And Escorpion, who's played by Emilio Rivera, he does arrive at the lab, and Kurian explains that Escorpion belongs to this, criminal organization called the Zeros. So that's what the Z on their hand stands for. And as I said in the last video I made about these predictions, you see various different criminal organizations, gangs, things like that will sometimes mark themselves and let people know who they are through tattoos, and that makes sense. So the Z indicates zeros, and they work for this cartel. I think it was called the Salas cartel, something like that. But Scorpion works for the cartel, and he basically is in charge of moving the Z-weed around. So the Z-weed has, in a sense, become the commodity for this group, and they're basically just taking it around, selling it for, maybe bullets, food, water, maybe even money, whatever they feel like they need. And that makes sense, even in a terrible situation like this, you can still profit by having something that people want. And if people want Z-weed and they're willing to, say, "Hey, I'll give you this can of beans for, an ounce of Z-weed." Hey, why not? Cool. I eat, you get high, works out. That's no different than, unfortunately, what we have going on here, with various different, drugs that are addictive to individuals. I mean, we're not going to go into that, but it's a similar concept. So basically, the Zeros were funding Dr. Kurian's work at that lab. And it really makes me think that they're into different types of businesses, experiments, organizations. And I think that that's really what Dr. Kurian was trying to do, was that not so much necessarily a cure for the zombie virus, but something that would make people like Murphy, because it does make sense that Murphy's kind would outlive humans and zombies, because in a sense he can't be, bitten by a zombie anymore and turned into a zombie, but he also can't, be uncontrollable. I mean, he still retains his human qualities. And if you look over history, and look over the history of the Earth, and if you, see various evolution of species, that makes sense. It's the survival of the fittest. It's whoever can adapt the best to the world is going to survive. And you see various species that attain, the ability to fly. So that way not as many predators could get them. You have various other species that would, go to the water, things like that. So if you were able to, evolve yourself to make yourself more fit for survival, you're going to survive. And that's, in a sense, what's happened to Murphy. He's become basically the best survivor of the entire apocalypse, because he's still, in a sense, a human with, the zombie cure slash virus, whatever the heck he has inside of him, so that he can't be bitten and turned into a zombie. Which, what better way for you to be able to survive? Now, you wish you would look a little better. I mean, he's looking pretty rough, but if it allows him to live, then hey, that's a good situation for him. And Kurian says, well, if the Zeros find us, they're going to take us away. And I think that Kurian's really worried. I think the reason why is because, because the lab, uh, blew up and he's partly responsible for setting off the nukes. I think the Zeros are a little bit upset at him for the way he handled everything, and probably, was responsible for killing off quite a bit of the population with the nukes. So I think that's why they want him. But Scorpion ends up arriving, talks with Odegaard, and gets the shipment, and then finds out about Batch 47. But he's not really interested in exploring those cures. I mean, I think that he really is a businessman, and he wants to be able to make a profit in whatever way that he can. And fooling around with cures just isn't gonna cut it for him. Part of the reason is because every time he sends harvesters inside, they die. And that was something that he told them, like, you're killing off our customer base. You need to stop doing that. And of course, Odegaard presents a Scorpion with the the cure, and Scorpion's like, oh, well, you have this. Let's test this out. You made a zombie save brains. Let's see what happens when you put it in a human. So he allows Odegaard to be the test subject, and he actually takes the samples that they gathered from Batch 47 away from Warren and Dog. So they may do later experiments on it, but whatever Odegaard had in that vial, that he had manufactured, gets injected into him. And, at first he's like, whoa, yeah, this is nice. Okay, I think this is working. Yeah, I'm good to go. They turn away, and we don't see it happen, but they turn right back. He's a zombie. So apparently it does not work as well as they would like it to, or maybe it does, but it needs more time. Because again, if this concept of Murphy being the future is what is going to happen, that if you inject this into people, that they're going to retain qualities that Murphy has, but be human, then it would be maybe technically a success. But because of the fact that it just changed him into a zombie, we really don't know. So Scorpion's like, yeah, enough of this. Boom, boom. He kills him and, takes the samples and just says, all right, get back to work, and they also capture Kurian. So, so they capture Kurian. They're going to take him to their boss, and the Scorpion orders his men to burn down the warehouse, which they start to do, but Murphy's inside. So the group needs to go save him. Murphy ends up running into that big tree zombie, and the group is able to save him because the tree zombie pretty much, wraps its vines around him, and Addie and 10K have an amazing kill where they, the big fans that are running in the greenhouse, they take the vines, throw them into the fan, and it just rips the zombie to shreds. Pretty neat. And then they leave because basically the lab's no good to them anymore. Before they leave, they do give some of the sample to that little girl. I don't know whether it cured her or not, though. I think it might have honestly just euthanized her. I don't know for sure, but the woman was basically leaning over her and crying. So, I mean, I don't think that Batch 47 works unless there's more to it, or unless there's more that they need to experiment with it. I think it's a failure, and I think the group realized that as well. So they're leaving. They're driving away from the compound, and who do they run into? Serena, Pie Girl, who is very pregnant, and she sees that Murphy is there and goes, "Hey, guess what I got? I got your child." And Murphy's like, "Oh God, like, what did I do?" So they are united. They've been reunited. The baby is obviously happy to see Murphy because we see, the fetus inside, press up against the mother's belly. So obviously he or she wants to meet up with Murphy. Let's see what happens. But the next episode is going to feature the child's birth, so this will be very, very interesting. I have to say that Z Nation really, really is impressive. I really hope it gets a third season. All signs are pointing to it will. I'm knocking on wood because I think it's amazing. These 4 episodes, I think, have been some of the strongest that Z Nation has put out since it started, and I'm very, very impressed. I cannot wait for next week. So with that, I'm going to bring this video to a close. I want to thank all of you guys for watching. If you have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. And if you guys have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, please don't be afraid to suggest them. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and thank you very much for watching.